paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, that's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
Were you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
Well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Stop making noise.
Who's making noise?
As a yet
Who's making noise? You told me to stop making noise.
As a yet unnamed plane, Phyrexia was created by an ancient evil planeswalker. Little is known of him, aside from the fact he was a humanoid that preferred to assume the form of a dragon. He died just a month before Yawgmoth was transported to Phyrexia. And from there, people, the rest was history. The Phyrexians, they did some stuff. It was some bad stuff. Then they invaded Mirrodin. They brought their Phyrexian oil to Mirrodin. They completely consumed Mirrodin. It became New Phyrexia. And now, somehow, the Phyrexians are on Kaldheim. Welcome to Brainstorm Brewery, everybody.
You're just gonna drop lore, like that's a leak.
Welcome to Kaldheim. I googled Phyrexian lore and for Phyrexia's lore and found the MTG fandom wiki page for it. So
like we have a separate leaks channel in our Discord for people who want to avoid that type of content. And then you open the podcast with it.
Well, the card has been previewed. It's out there on Mythic Spoiler now. So it's if you are somebody who doesn't want to hear us talk about new cards, you probably don't want to listen to this episode because we're going to talk about some old ones, but also plenty of new ones that are
we already spoiled something
Kaldheim.
for you, so just bail out.
The history of the Phyrexian plane.
Bruce Willis
Well, anyway,
was
I mean,
dead
we
the
needed
whole movie. Haley Joel Osment was the only one who could see him.
We needed MTG Ryan here, I guess, for this one. But yeah, we're going back to Phyrexians, perhaps on Kaldheim, thanks to the Vorinclex Phyrexian Praetor being spoiled for the set, in addition to Snow. So welcome in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your holidays. If you're getting this episode after the new year, wish you a new year as well. Let's all hope to put 2020 behind us and have a great 2021.
2021 is going to be terrible.
It probably isn't going to be great.
And everyone's going to be like, oh shit, we thought 2020 was bad.
Well,
that was before the Boston Dynamics robots became self-aware and like, wow, we shouldn't have taught the ones that look like dogs to open doors, huh?
I will say that the Boston Robotics robots are the ones I would not want to fight. You know,
yeah,
like those things are built like Transformers.
Today, like, oh, they can dance. It's fine. It's fine that a robot can dance.
Also, can we make fun of the people who are up on their high horse about, like, you know that the date doesn't matter, right? It's just a number. The world is going to be the same, and it's still going to be bad. The fact that you're just attributing it to a number shows how intelligent I am. And as I go watch my 6 Rick and Morty episodes on 7 monitors, like, can you not?
Wow.
The date is nothing but a
speaking
number,
about
which
someone
is
very
why
particular
when the police
here.
tell me my girlfriend is underage, I'm like, well, her age is nothing but a number.
I mean, look, we don't want to spend the whole episode talking about this, but I agree with you. 2021, especially.
Corbin, don't say we.
Please.
Well, okay, let me rephrase then. I don't want this to become a COVID show. People they come here to get away from COVID, but as it relates to Magic, we should talk. I mean, we can talk about 2021, and I do think the reality is that anything that you consider part of the normal Magic ecosystem, and Magic Fests, even just F&M if you're in a responsible part of the country, or these things. I mean, it's probably going to be the summer. Right? The vaccines are going out, but they're only going out to the first wave. It's going to take months to start getting them out there, and you need probably 60+% penetration before it really makes a difference.
And you have that. If you have 20 million doses out there, that means that's 10 million people because everybody needs 2 shots.
Right. Yeah. So it's gonna, we don't want to make any big predictions here as far as anything else, but I would not be surprised if it was 2022 or at least the tail end of 2021 before we had anything in paper again. I'm kind of hoping that, maybe the World Championship at the end of the season in September or whenever.
Thank God for Spell Table.
Will
We'd
be in
all
paper.
Be out of a job.
Yeah, Spell Table
EDH
is great.
Is really. I mean, EDH was slated to be carrying a lot of the weight of paper anyway, but like
it's the year of Commander, right? 2020.
Yeah.
Well, Spell Table has been a lifesaver, as has some people play on Tabletop Simulator. That's one worth checking out as well, I think.
Where would we be without the program that kicks me out every 5 minutes during our streams? Where would we be?
I have seen a lot of store owners
be playing
say
on
that.
Whereby.
I've seen a lot of people say that, as far as selling online Magic cards goes, the pandemic has not exactly slowed that down. So it was Mike Turian, who works at Wizards, who said that that Zendikar Rising was the biggest Magic set of all time. So take that however you want.
It just means there were
I'm not gonna
360
tell you what
cards in it instead of when you had the Commander decks, which added 4 new cards. It's the biggest Magic set of all time.
I guess that might have been it. But
physically, when the cards warp, physically, when the cards warp, they take up more volume.
Oh,
like in a
now I like
three-dimensional
where
space.
you're at.
They're
Yeah.
bigger cards physically.
You can get a Pringles tube. That would be so much more economic.
These Magic cards and Pringles are the only 2 things in nature called hyperbolic paraboloids.
So anyways, I mean, look, however you look at
a
it.
cylinder was a better way to have as a deck box, so we are going to make Magic cards shaped like Pringles so they fit in a tube.
Did you guys know that
shake 'em
Pringles? Did you guys know that Pringles do not meet like the standard to become chips or whatever?
A chip.
That's why they call them
they're
crisps.
Yeah.
And then in the UK, they're like, "Oh, these ain't crisps. Hey,
chips.
hey, these ain't crisps. I'm gonna go down the pub and smash a pint glass over someone's skull because my soccer team didn't do well."
Football team.
Football.
They say soccer. They invented the word soccer, and I'm never gonna let them forget it. You know why they came up with the? I found out the origin of the word soccer, and it made me so upset. It's because they got that from association football. The word association they turned into soccer. Like they're just the worst people. Just awful, and their food sucks. England is the Mexico of England.
England? You mean of Europe?
No.
Perhaps? Or is England the Mexico of the UK?
It's the Mexico of England.
Not anymore. England's not anything of the UK anymore.
That's also 12.
They just got wrecked.
Anyways, back to Magic. The point is Kaldheim is coming at a time when Magic seems to be doing well by their metrics.
Well, we can put it this way. No, Corbin. For the Phyrexians Brexited from New Phyrexia onto Kaldheim.
Well, yeah, I guess that might have been what
This
happened.
is like that scene from Euro Trip where the guy's like, "I could teach a monkey Greek philosophy. It's just finding a way to relate to you." So everything we're teaching people world politics.
Well, I'll say that I am excited for Kaldheim. I don't love snow as a mechanic, for what it's worth, basically due to the fact that the snow, if you look at Modern, there's basically mechanical reasons where playing Snowlands, even if you're not playing Snow Matters cards, are technically correct. And I think that's kind of a feel bad to a lot of people. So I don't know if, they just gave us all these really cool lands in Zendikar Rising and Theros Pokemon lands before that and all this cool stuff. And now are we going to be in a format where you just have to play these snow basics from Kaldheim instead? We don't know.
This is the part where JJ cuts in from it was either last week or the week before, but like Corbin saying, quote, "I love snow."
Well, I do love snow as a mechanic. I don't love it in
No. You said it about your Oklahoma area.
I love getting snow.
You were talking about how snow.
Corbin saying anything.
I mean, for what it's worth, I do like snow as a mechanic. I don't necessarily like it when it's sort of a default, right? I think snow basics were probably really the thing to blame there. But what does excite you guys about the set? We saw Vorinclex, heralding a possible return of Phyrexians in all likelihood, but that's the only one we've seen so far.
Man, I haven't seen anything that I believe is a real card necessarily. right? Like,
Well,
I think the birthing pod is cool. Like
the birthing pod is
pod's
cool.
Toski is actually pretty cool. I don't know
What-
if I want that as
okay,
my
so-
commander. 'Cause,
Squirrel?
yeah, mono green squirrels, that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, so Toski is a 4-mana 1/1, but it can't be countered. It's indestructible. It's a legendary squirrel. It attacks each combat if able. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So that does seem like a thing in
whenever
Squirrel
a creature
Tribal,
you
I
control
guess.
deals combat damage to a player.
Sure, yeah. So that is certainly a Squirrel Lord if you ever really wanted one. I say that, it's really not. It's just a squirrel, basically, right? It's not really even a Lord.
I mean, it's still a card that makes people lose their minds and makes people buy cards they shouldn't. Like that's,
yeah, that is true.
the text of the card doesn't matter. That card could say this spell can't be countered when this spell resolves, lose the game or whatever, and it'd still
It
make.
can still be a legendary
But
squirrel.
then people like heard there was a legendary squirrel, and they're like, "I bought Nut Collector. I'm a finance genius." What?
I
Throwing
think-
Eldraine's fairy tales, quick! Buy all the fairies and all the 8.5 tails. You guys are buying fairies. You're dumb. I'm buying all the tails.
I think Pyre of Heroes, which is the birthing pod we're talking about, is really, really cool. It's straight up 2 mana, no Phyrexian mana like pod, but straight up 2 mana. 2 mana, sack a creature, search your library for a creature that shares a creature type with CMC 1 greater than the sacrificed creature. So it is a birthing pod, but for tribal. It's a tribal pod at I guess it's the same mana investment up front minus the life. So it's pretty cheap though. You can slam this thing on turn 2. You know, start playing out creatures, pay mana to sacrifice them. It's pretty powerful.
I'm sure there's a
I think-
chain. There's a chain of
creatures in my-
humans.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
chain of humans
Oh,
that's
yeah.
nuts with this.
All the creatures in my Omnath deck are elementals. The deck
That's
that's
also
already
true.
running Vanifar, but like
I don't know if you want
Vanifar
to
is easier to
sacrifice them.
untap,
but-
so like I don't know how excited to be about this. I think it's a very fair birthing pod, but like I don't want to be playing fair Magic if I'm birthing podding.
I mean, I just think that there's probably a lot, read almost any tribal deck in Commander that will at least give it a look.
And
And
it
you know
doesn't
what?
have
I mean,
access to green. Like non-green decks have access to birthing
Right.
pod effects now.
I mean,
Right.
I'm not playing it in Rogues.
yeah, I think it's maybe not in every deck for sure, but you know, there's certainly going to be decks out there that want it. It's a really powerful card. Also back in this set are DFC lands. Remember when Zendikar
not just
Rising?
DFC lands, because Halvar, God of Battle, is a DFC
That's
card
right.
that's an equipment on the back and a creature on the front.
Yeah, when we did Zendikar Rising and I first saw the dual lands, I was like, I don't even like these dual lands. They're very weak as far as duels go. But I love this mechanic. I like it a lot more as a mechanic than a land cycle. And it turns out that they just see this as another tool in the arsenal now. And we're going to get DFCs whenever appropriate, or maybe just in every set at this point. Because, yeah, Jason's right. In this set, not only do we have them completing the land cycle, but we have commanders that are 2 different, not even creatures on the other side.
So
right?
I can talk about Halvar a little bit.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if they took this mechanic from Legends of Runeterra.
Okay, let's be clear
So-
about what we're talking about first. What is the card?
Halvar, God of Battle, the white legendary creature that
Okay,
turns into
so-
an equipment on the other side.
Yeah,
Um,
the DFC.
So one of the biggest design constraints Wizard has had regarding legendary creatures is just like the factor of having multiples. They want them to be like powerful enough that you don't want to draw multiples, but they also don't want it to feel bad if you do draw multiples.
Right.
And have one be obsolete. Like they've changed the legend mechanic 16 times over the years, like Jace Bellerin being a destroy target, Jace the Mind, like all that stuff. And Runeterra is built around a system where you pick you pick a champion, you pick up to 6 champions for your deck, and you can have a 3 of in your deck. So you generally pick like 2-3 of champions, and they're like your focus builds, they're your build around. They have different rules, slightly different rules than other cards. That they're effectively legendary creatures. And one of the ways that Runeterra designed around champions, and like they don't want you to be able to easily have multiple champions in the same name on the board because they are powerful. They don't want you to be able to go like turn 1 Teemo, turn 2 Teemo, turn 3 Teemo.
It's a lot of Teemo. That's what I like.
If you have one of that champion on board, every champion has a signature spell, and that name might ring familiar from Oathbreaker.
Oathbreaker, yeah.
But every champion has a signature spell, like an instant or sorcery, that is also in the game. And all copies of that card turn into its champion spell when it is in your hand.
Understood.
And then when you cast that champion spell, it adds a copy of the champion to your deck. So if you have Garen in play, and you have Garen's Judgment in your hand, Judgment being like a spell, a combat trick that just wrecks people, then like you can't play another Garen on the board, but you have Garen's Judgment in your hand that synergizes with the card, and then when you play Garen's Judgment, you get a Garen thrown back in your deck, so if your Garen dies, then you can later draw Garen again. And I think that Halvar not turning into an equipment, but being optionally...
Having the option, yeah.
Having the option to play this card as an equipment makes it so that when you have this card... Even in a 60-card casual deck, and that's, I think, a lot of where this is targeted, is like players who are accumulating like 4 of legendary cards and they want to put them in their casual tribal deck or whatever, having that option to play the card as something else that synergizes with the card. So you have your Halvar on the board and you're like, well, I just drew 2 more of them. That's not, oh, wait, I can turn it into something else.
Yeah, I think my favorite iteration that stands out to me is I think Grandeur was the mechanic.
Yeah.
A legendary
Absolutely.
creature in play, you could discard the same one from your hand for an
that was a
effect.
similar mechanic, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I liked that one. That was I thought that was a very innovative way to try to tackle that one. It sounds like Legends of Runeterra has a good system. And honestly, something like Halvar, it's not the card that appeals to me. Creatures you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike. At the beginning of each combat, you may attach target aura or equipment attached to a creature you control to another target creature you control, or you can play it as Sword of the Realms, this entire card, which is an equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/0 vigilance. When it dies, return it to its owner's hand. Equip cost of 2. So, Jason, do you want an equipment as your commander?
No.
I mean, they tried that with the demon, right?
Yeah.
The
Elbrus,
Dark
the
Ascension.
Binding
Yeah.
Blade.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care, man. I think
It's also mono white.
It's a little too fair. Yeah, it's mono.
It's also mono white.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Halvar is hugely strong. I think that this is the sign, though, that DFCs are just... I mean, they were already more and more over the last few years kind of just becoming
I don't know.
the norm.
People kind of
But
thought,
now it just seems like we're actually
DFCs,
just there.
A spell in the front and a land on the back is nuts. If you're going to use that spell...
Agreed.
Like, it's just... You get land screwed less frequently. If you would rather just have the land... if you're like, well, I need it. If you need it, you got it. And if not, you got a spell. Like
this is a pretty interesting...
Having regrowth with the land on the back is insane. I don't know. I mean, everyone's playing that card. And I don't know how it wasn't more obvious to everybody at the time that was going to be nuts. But even okay spells that have a land on the back, it's like, well, it's an okay spell and it's an okay land. But having exactly what you need, it's better. It's a modal card, and modal cards take up 2 spots. So when you only have 100 slots, having something that occupies 2 spots is very good. That's why modal cards get played a lot in Commander, because it's what you need when you need it.
And I think they're here to stay. Arena, online play in general, and best of 1 formats are something that they want to keep in mind, at least. So they like having modal cards so that your Heartless Act, for instance, isn't just dead against the wrong kind of deck. Stuff like that. So I think that this is, I mean, it's possible. We know that this was an attempt to sort of smooth out the some of the mana issues, right? Magic's always fighting against its own inconsistency for giving players ways to make their deck more consistent. And I think DFCs might just be here to stay. I think this just might be a thing that we have from now on out, because it sure allows them to tackle some of that variance type stuff. If you have Scry as an evergreen mechanic and DFCs as an evergreen mechanic where you can put lands and spells together, it gives them a lot of knobs to turn if they're able to play them whenever they want, or print them whenever they want now. But what else from the set does stand out to you guys? We've seen some Sagas returning as well.
The set has like 1 billion casual 50 cent,
It's pronounced Fitty.
unsleeved cards. Like Angel Tribal is huge, and I don't know if people recognize that those cards exist yet, because they were so focused on the more predominantly powerful cards. But stuff like Valkyrie Harbinger, stuff like just any card that says Angel in the text box Like Starnheim Aspirant angel spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Like Dragon Speaker Shaman was a $5 card for 10 years.
Gosh, it really was, yeah.
That
Just
was before anyone was
anything.
playing EDH.
Yeah, Youthful Valkyrie. Whenever another angel enters the battlefield under control, put a counter on. Like these are all just role filler cards for casual decks that have not had that slot available. Like, these decks were playing Marble Diamond and Cold Steel Heart to ramp themselves into their big, dumb angels, and now they have small angels that also say the word angel on them, so that you can fill out your, like, 24 planes for War Chanter Skull deck, and, like, it's gonna be like, and especially because these cards are in theme boosters or whatever, theme or set boosters, which means that theoretically the supply is not even theoretically, just the supply is significantly lower than what you'd expect out of a Noble Booster pack. So stuff like Rampage of the Valkyries, stuff like anything that just has these creature types.
You mentioned the Aspirant, right?
Is that the cheaper? Yeah, that's the Dragon Speaker Shaman.
Yeah, that's, I think, going to be my favorite uncommon to pick out of this set from what we've seen so far. That one's great.
For sure.
There's also, though, you're right about the
casuals. It's not financially relevant, but
Serulf
Realm Eater can eat my ass.
I don't think this card is as bad as you think it is.
All right, let me read this one. Hold up. This one's got words.
To make cards like this is bad.
Let me read it.
Whenever a permanent an opponent controls is put in a graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on Serulf Ass Eater. At the beginning of your upkeep, if it has one or more 1/1 counters on it, you may remove all of them. If you do, exile each other non-land permanent with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of counters removed this way. Exiling permanents is annoying. Like, the graveyard's a resource in EDH, and like being able to freely exile a bunch of stuff every turn is like super annoying. Having access to a Pernicious Deed in your command zone's annoying. Like, having a big beater when you wipe all the other creatures off the board is pretty annoying. Like, there's nothing to like about this card. It's not going to be. It's not going to lock the game down. You know, like maybe like Never Neural was, but like I think it's just it. It says that Wizards wants people to play a very annoying brand of EDH that's really long, and like everyone plays a big 3-hour game because that's what they think we want, but we don't want that. And anybody that says they want that, like, stop listening to
a lot of people do want that.
I don't think this card promotes a 3-hour game. I think you're playing this with a lot of +1/+1 counter synergies, and the turn that you rat the board, you're shooting it up for like an 18 damage and punching someone in the throat.
I mean, I hope
I gotta say, this seems fine to me. Anything that is gated by at the beginning of your upkeep seems fine to me. And in this case, there are additional knobs on it. I understand Jason's point, though. You're not strictly talking about, say, the power level of the card, but just the type of gameplay it encourages. I'm talking about 2 sets back to back. We had Never Neural, then this. Yeah. It's like, we always want a board.
I think they're completely different cards.
Eat my butt.
I think these are completely different cards.
I think they're completely the same terrible impulse.
They both slow the game down. Yeah, they both slow the game down.
I don't think this slows the game down at all.
Okay, DJ.
This is this is like a Skullbriar. This is like a Varolz where you're just like beating someone in the head with it. Like I don't think this.
I had read this card, but I did not peg this one to be controversial tonight. I actually don't have a strong opinion on this right now, but I'm enjoying this discussion.
I don't think this card slows the game down. I think that you are killing people very quickly with this commander.
Huh. I kind of think it's just going to get killed before you ever really get to do much with it.
Well, I sure
that's
hope so.
That's why I say it. It's like a Skullbriar.
Yeah. So Corbin, you're saying they have to answer it because they
it's a must answer
coalition
for sure,
victory because that has to be answered.
Okay, well, we start talking about the ban list, Jason. That's a whole different discussion. Anyways, it'll be an interesting
no creatures
card,
are bad in EDH because you can just kill them.
I mean, yeah.
How many creatures are banned in EDH? Is it just...
they banned Iona.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just answer Iona. You can just kill it with your O.
Oh. Well, to be fair, you can just kill the wolf. So we're talking about both the draft boosters that you will see, as well as the theme and set boosters, which are standard legal, but they sell differently for whatever reason. But I'm looking at, assuming we can treat these uncommons, kind of like uncommons or whatever else. Elven Ambush is a 4-mana instant uncommon. Create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature for each elf you control. That is an elf card right there, and that screams to me 50-cent pick in the future. If these theme and set boosters cards work the way we think They like work like everything else. There's also Canopy Tactician. It's a 4-mana elf lord that adds 3 mana and pumps your other elves. There's definitely some tribal goodness in this set, and that does tend to produce, long-term pickups, right? Like the Aspirin is, I think, a really good call out by DJ that's going to be relevant for many years to come.
Hey, how does Giant's Grasp work with protection from blue? Okay, so Giant's Grasp, it's an aura. You enchant a giant you control, so you target your own creature with the Giant's Grasp.
Mm-hmm.
But when Giant's Grasp enters the battlefield, you gain control of target non-land permanent for as long as Giant's Grasp remains on the battlefield. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't get something that has hexproof, but could you get something pro-blue? Like, what targets the creature?
No, you can't get...
No.
You can't get pro-blue.
Giant's Grasp targets the creature.
Does
it's just enchant... It's yes.
Yeah, the word target is on the
it says gain control of target, whatever.
And it doesn't give that ability to the creature you enchant. It would say enchanted creature has the ability X. Instead, it doesn't have that.
I don't think it has the ability. Yeah. I think it's just...
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's how you know that
the
Giant's Grasp is the one doing the targeting. It is kind of a weird card.
Because if I wanted to make a card that it targeted your creature instead of targeting their creature and therefore could get around pro-blue, I would word it like
they're not doing it so it gets around pro.
I know they're doing it so they can make a 4-mana control magic and be like, see, we made a 4-mana control magic, so you can stop complaining that there isn't a 4-mana control magic, but we made it unplayable, so no one's really upset.
Well,
this card's not unplayable. What? This card's nuts and limited.
This card is always nuts. Any mind control is nuts and limited, and that's why they keep putting hoops on them, and you still just draft them first. Lol mages, whatever, the costs 3 less if your opponent has 7 or more cards in their graveyard. Mind control, they put in whatever set it was. Turns out that's a standard player in addition to a limited all-star.
If you don't have at least 5 giants in your deck, you're never going to trigger this.
But there's shapeshifters in the set.
Yeah, there's changelings.
There's a shapeshifter.
Yeah. Well,
there's a changeling theme.
I believe there will be more. I'm also excited to see. I'll be honest, I don't much care about the Kaya, although it is kind of a cool Kaya. I don't think it's going to be hugely relevant. But
there's so many forgettable and bad planeswalkers lately. Every planeswalker has
that's
sucked
fine,
since every planeswalker from War of the Spark is $2. They're like, every planeswalker should be $2 from now on.
Wait, you mean like Oko?
Well, yeah, Oko. But Oko's a year ago. More than a year ago.
Oko was after War of the Spark.
It was a year ago.
That's true. It was a year and a half ago.
So they don't know how to make a planeswalker is what you're saying.
I'm curious what you think about Realm Walker, you guys. As Realm Walker enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. It's a shapeshifter. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play creature spells of the chosen type off the top of your library. It's 3 mana. It's a 2/3. So, Vizier of the Menagerie...
It's a bad Vizier of the Menagerie.
Vizier of the Menagerie exists, and I'm going to be honest, I don't run into that card a lot at the Commander table. So is Realm Walker even going to be relevant, or what? What do we think?
It's not going to be Realm Event.
Let's look at how much Vizier of the Menagerie gets actually played.
I am curious, actually, as well as what it's probably worth. I'll look that up.
6,500 decks on EDH Rec, which is 3% of all the green decks. It's mostly showing up in like Nikia, Animar.
Mm-hmm. Vizier of the Menagerie is about a $5 card though, for what it's worth. It was a mythic though for Mom and Cat, and it did start. It actually bottomed out at $2 and is now $5 almost. So if it followed the Vizier of the Menagerie pass, that wouldn't be that bad. But it's also not a mythic like Vizier was.
Well, I think Vizier is maybe getting a boost lately because people are running it in Hans Eriksson decks too.
Yeah, that's also very possible. All right. Well, anything else from the set?
Vizier also lets you cheat on your mana, and it doesn't have to be a specific. Like, this is nowhere near as good as Vizier. So if the ceiling is $5,
yeah, I agree. And I don't think the ceilings. I don't even think it'll get there. It stood out to me as a cool card, but I kind of just think the pieces aren't. It's just not going to be there. Yeah.
Well, it's one of the showcase cards they've spoiled. They've only spoiled 10 showcase cards so far.
I do like the showcase frames for this set, for what it's worth. They're a little out there, but it works.
I'm glad they did, because they're like, we're going to do the masterpieces all the time, and everyone's like, too much masterpiece. But they had like all these frames, I bet, so they just started using them, and then they kept making them, so it's cool.
Well, I'm going to be honest, I don't even remember the rules anymore, so I haven't opened outside of this Commander Legends here that we all got. I haven't opened a box or a pack since COVID began. So I honestly don't know. Can you open the showcases in a draft booster?
You can open certain ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Like you were able to open the.
I mean,
so
they
were able to open like
are
Borderless Garruk and Oko from those.
So they basically are masterpieces still. They just we're just now also selling collector boosters for them. Yeah, makes sense. All right, well, that's enough Kaldheim. We will talk about it plenty in the coming weeks, I am sure. But for now, let's move on to everyone's favorite segment, Breaking Bulk.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
War of the Spark multicolor card.
What's the rarity?
Uncommon. I think there's 10.
Death Sprout?
Well, what colors is it? That sounds a good guess.
No.
Is it the
is it the green-white life gain Planeswalker?
Nope. Though the Planeswalkers would be a good guess.
I thought that was a good guess.
Dovin's Veto?
I don't know.
Nope.
Oh, that is also a good guess.
I mean,
That's
there's a
probably the
whole
best
there's Dovin's Veto.
there's clearly some
Descark,
options.
Time Wipe.
Can you give us?
Is
Can
it
you give us the
creature?
colors?
It is
No,
a
the
creature.
colors- It is a creature, so it's a Cruel Celebrant.
Nope.
No.
Getting warmer though.
Mayhem Devil?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, cool.
I always
Red,
forget
black.
actually that was in War of the Spark and not one of the first two.
Red black 3/3. Whenever any player sacrifices a permanent, gets to deal 1 to any target.
And as you might know this from such hits as every format.
Yep.
Yeah. Mayhem Devil is quite strong.
They
One
put
of those
a lot
cards
of engines
that
around
like
it.
they could have put that card at rare and like no one would have blinked.
I don't think it. I think it's one of those that kind of slipped under their radar, not in even a negative way. It's not like I'm saying anything bad about the card Mayhem Devil here, but I think maybe if they realized how powerful it would have been, maybe they would have made it a rare.
Well, like War of
But
the
as it
Spark
turns
was a
out,
set.
It was the centerpiece of one of the better decks across multiple formats, and it was at uncommon. So
War of the Spark
that's
was
kind of
just-
cool, right?
War of the
Well, it
Spark
came
was
out around the same time as Corvald, too.
Yeah, it did. It did. But go ahead, DJ.
War of the Spark was the set where they decided to juice everything. So like
Yeah.
it wasn't this was uncommon by design. It wasn't that they just forgot. That entire cycle, all of those cards in that set were juiced power level wise, and
Yeah.
it came out like 6 months before Corvald too. By the way, it was like this came out in April, and Corvald was like September, October.
Yeah, it hit standard at rotation when Corvold also hit standard. But for what it's worth, like this Mayhem Devil gets played in red black sacrifice without Corvold. The Jund sacrifice decks in historic that play Mayhem Devil don't even play Corvold really anymore. Maybe like one. So yeah, it just has a life all of its own. It's just a very powerful card. Okay, I'll jump in here. This is a card that was originally printed in Magic 2012. It was most recently in Commander Legends. It's a white uncommon.
Is it the
Oh, we're all on a
when you
roll
gain
tonight.
4 life, get a 4/4 angel?
That was
No.
14. That was 2014.
That was a good guess, actually, but no. I mean, it's pretty hard when you name random core sets. It's an enchantment, though.
Yeah. Oh, it's Spirit Mantle.
It is Spirit Mantle. Specifically, I was going to say it is an aura. So Spirit Mantle, all previous versions of the card were at least $1.50. It was in M12, Plane Chase again.
Conspiracy?
Yeah. No.
Just
Oh,
plain
Plane
text.
Chase. In Plane Chase
No,
Anthology.
Unspoken Authority was the one they reprinted in Conspiracy.
Yeah, that probably. Unquestioned Authority, maybe?
Unquestioned Authority, yeah.
Yeah. That checks out. But yeah, Spirit Mantle, for those who don't know, enchant creature. Enchanted creature is +1/+1 and has protection from creatures. That's the big one. Primarily, it's a Boggles card. It's the Boggles card that allows your creature to punch through all other creatures. There actually are occasions where it's correct to block in your Boggles deck. Spirit Mantle allows you to do that with impunity. You can put it on a different creature, right? If you have your attacking creature, you can put Spirit Mantle on your blocker, so it'll have protection from creatures. It's just all around powerful. And the Commander Legends version is 50 cents right now, so you are almost certainly going to find some Spirit Mantles in bulk over the next year if you do any kind of bulk picking and get to see recent sets. So make sure you have an eye out for this one. All right, Jason, what do you got?
Corbin, I would just like to say that it was complete bullshit that you just like pick some random 10-year-old core set.
Okay, what are you at? M11?
M13.
Okay.
Uncommon artifact.
Elixir of Immortality.
Nope.
Nope.
You idiot.
Elixir
So
was
is that
in
2010?
It was in 2011 and maybe 12. It was in 2011 for sure, though. In
I think
2014.
this
Tormod's
is
Crypt.
only M13. Yeah, this has only been printed in M13.
Oh, okay. It's an artifact?
It's an artifact.
Huh. The hell was in M13?
Yeah, good. What indeed?
Manolith.
What a stupid, terrible.
I mean, that card.
guess.
Yeah.
God, I'm embarrassed.
I thought you'd like that one.
It's part of a cycle. So name.
Oh,
any
is it
card
the
that's
rings?
like- it's one of the rings.
Is it the rings?
Rings of?
I understand.
Ring
Is it
of
the green one?
Colonia is the one in particular.
Yeah.
That's worth,
Okay, yep.
More than you'd expect. It's the green one, so like, it's bad. But you put a 1/1 counter on it every turn if it's green, and it gets it.
I
trampled,
played.
So it's pretty.
I
good.
played one of these in Marchesa. I played the blue one, I think, that gave hexproof in Marchesa for a while.
Yeah.
These were cool back in the day. These, for those that don't know, Ring of Colonia, 2 mana. It was a cycle. Equip creature as trample. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a counter on if it's green. Equip cost of 1. Mostly limited cards, but they were pretty neat.
You can put on that stupid.
And obviously, that's why people like them.
Marulf the Ass Eater, because it'll give it a 1/1 counter every turn, so you can blow it up. You can blow up the ring. You'd be like, I blew my own ring. Wow.
That's certainly a plan.
I deserve this. I deserve this for playing this commander. I deserve to blow up all my own shit.
I'm gonna build this deck now.
Good. Build it, idiot.
And
Put a
Go
Ring
for
of
it.
Colonia in there. It'll give your creature trample.
You
I'll
should
play
just
a
bust
blocker
that
and
one
be like,
out
"Go
on
blow up your
stream
blocker."
one
The
night.
game took 2 hours. Ring of Colonia is worth
All right, well-
surprisingly more money than you'd think. I didn't pull these always, but now I do. I pull all the rings.
There you go. All right. Well, we're about to read some emails.
are there any ring cards that give +1+? Are there any other ring cards that give +1/+1?
I don't read them. I just pull them out of bulk and put them in a
Well,
box.
because if there were, then you could have a tribal deck with a Lord of the Rings.
Get out of here. Why are you like
quit.
this?
That's it. I'm done. That's it. The final straw. The final straw.
Well, this is the final episode of Brainstorm Brewery. We said we would stick it through 2020 for the kids, but we're done. DJ
It was up in the air, and then DJ made that pun, and it's just over, y'all. It's over.
We're like, one more
But until-
stupid pun, I swear to God, I will blow this whole podcast up. Go to patreon.com/BSB and sign up to get at the end of the year rewards, because those are end of the podcast rewards. We're not doing this shit in 2021. Get a glass while you can. Get a playmat. I don't know.
I hope
what
you're
we're
proud
gonna
of
do
yourself,
with
DJ. I hope it was worth it.
With the new talisman tokens we had made that lasted longer than the podcast.
How about an email? DJ, give us an email.
All right, this one says $40 patron, and then it's in all caps.
That's what I like to see.
Please read for before Kaldheim release. KHC is the Kaldheim set code. So please read before Kaldheim release.
Okay, we did it. We did it.
Dear Brew Crew, since I'm paying for orange status, I would like some insider info.
Okay.
Given the rise in price of older cards such as Dwarven Recruiter, Nut Collector, Dwarven Blood Boiler, and etc., are these getting sold one at a time or mostly in bulk? Additionally, is there any previous examples where this kind of gamble pays off in the long run other than Lorwyn or reserve lists? It doesn't look like anyone has been visiting old cards for the new commander decks other than speculators. From person trying to maintain Troll Shroud against DJ Docs, set from a machine that can run Crisis and Cyberpunk 2077. P.S. Corbin, please think before you speak. Your fish has been getting smart enough to pilot copters. You could try to expand 1/10 of the brain power they use to loot cards to remembering what magic cards do, parentheses Obosh.
I did mess up on Obosh, but no one caught me either.
That's not what?
Smuggler's Copter.
We had so many YouTube comments about that.
Oh, I meant you guys. I just meant you all are equally to blame.
I was too busy writing on the back of cards to flip over in the event that Corbin didn't notice something.
That all makes sense. Well, to answer your question, I think what we see most of the time in stuff like this, and they mentioned it earlier, bringing up the fairy tales and buying the 8.5 tails. Right now, I think most of what you see is probably the speculator crowd. Maybe
because
not
they
all,
didn't. They
but
bought
certainly
squirrels
quite a
before
bit.
this squirrel was spoiled. This is not a squirrel tribal card. It has nothing to do with squirrels. You don't benefit.
Yeah, it's true. It really has very little to do with
So,
squirrels.
like, people heard Legendary Squirrel, and they're like, that's it. Squirrel deck, it's happening. Buy your nut collectors.
Mhm.
Well, like, cool, but this isn't giving you any... If you want to make the squirrel deck, great, but you're not going to... You need to sell into the hype, I think.
I think a lot of people who would be playing this as the legendary creature for their Squirrel Tribal deck were already playing, like, the Earl from Squirrel from Unstable as their commander. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people already had their... If they had their Squirrel Tribal deck, they weren't waiting for the legend to build it. Like...
Yes,
And look,
that's a very
I
good
like
point,
squirrels.
DJ.
I like squirrels a lot. I was playing the green-blue deranged hermit, like, nonsense back in Urza's block, right? Like, I like squirrels a lot. I put Squirrel Nest Opposition, Earthcraft in a lot of the decks I brewed on Cool Stuff Inc. Like, I'm a big fan of squirrels, but, like, I recognize that that this is not... And I feel the same way about dwarves, probably. Like, paying $10 for an uncommon from Judgment is not
Odyssey
the way.
or whatever, yeah.
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 So-
Yeah. So I don't even know. The thing is, if you have these cards, I don't even know if you want to try to sell into the hype if you can, but I don't know how far it goes. And you know, whenever the set finally does come out, like Jason always says, we see after a month or after a couple of weeks how people are actually building the decks and what cards they're actually getting. So I think if you're in on all of this, they named a squirrel, buy all the squirrel. If you have a piece of any of that, just sell it. Just make your money as soon as it spikes and move on.
Yep.
Because even the stuff that does pan out,
I do think that...
it still goes down in price. Even the stuff that people actually do play. Like, look at Citadel of Pain. Like, people are actually building that deck, but, like, not enough to maintain the hype. Right. So...
I do think that, I mean, your email says it doesn't look like anyone has been visiting old cards for their new commander decks other than speculators. I don't think that part is true. Like Jason said, Citadel of Pain, like, when there is a good enough commander or a good enough synergy or an interesting enough concept or archetype, people do absolutely dig out those old weird cards and start playing them more often. And then you get to see stuff like, I mean, the one example of this is, like, Marchesa the Black Rose. When that card was previewed in Conspiracy, like, foil Unspeakable Symbol to this day, which is, like, the marquee card for that deck, is still worth a lot of money.
And yet, I actually have an interesting note on that, because I've been trying to sell a foil Unspeakable Symbol forever. At least I think that's the right card. And the buy list price on it is trash. And was
Yeah,
trash
because
five
no one
times
wants
I
it.
tried. Right, it was like trash the 5 different times I tried to sell it. I kept putting it back in a box and coming across it later, and I still could never find a good buy price on it because no one actually wants it, I guess. I don't know.
So, like, if you go to MTG Price, I wrote an article where I basically classified the two kinds of cards that go up at set release as either Teysa or Vanifar, right? So Vanifar is like all the people like, oh, I built the Vanifar deck. We need Bounding Crassus. Foil Bounding Crassus is a $15 card now. Oh, shit, this 5-mana 2/2 tree folk can untap a creature? Well, shit, that's part of your chain.
Sign me up.
Yeah, and like all this Vanifar stuff just went way up, and nobody bought any of the Tesa junk. And I'm just like, hey, this is a thing that like gives you 5 spirit tokens when you sacrifice it, and it's still $1. People actually built Tesa. Tesa was the number 1 deck, and Vanifar's like number 4 after Nikia, which doesn't even let you play non-creatures in EDH, right? So like, Vanifar was the big, obvious, sexy, like, oh, Bounding Crisis, you know? Thornbite Staff, it went to $12. And like, those people never found buyers. The people that paid like $4 for a Thornbite Staff that used to be 1 trying to get out at 12, they paid 4 times what the card's worth. Like, and like, yeah, it's gonna settle at like halfway between its peak and its pre-spike price, right? That's usually what happens.
Right.
So if it goes from 1 to like 6, it'll be like 3. But if you paid 2 trying to make 6, you just got screwed. You know,
it also
if
just
you paid
depends,
4 trying to get 6, then like you're buy listing
Right.
it for 2. So
You start really chasing the closer you get. I mean, the thing is, if you bought Thornbite Staff when it first spiked, you did make money on it. Even today, the card's $8. But
Yeah.
you're absolutely right that the window can be very small because we've seen a lot of other ones just fall back off.
I mean,
But
this
you
is
would've been-
exactly
you would've
why
been
I
so
told
much better off buying stuff for the Tesa deck, and you had more time for the Tesa deck because like that stuff moved slower and like it just took its
It's
time
two different
revealing
things,
itself.
right?
And-
Like this, hey, we're gonna have a legendary squirrel buy the nut collectors. That's like basically a separate window. You can probably buy and sell into that window, but it is tight and it is hard to do a lot of times. Sometimes it
with
works
the
out
U.S.
great.
Postal
but-
Service being the way it is like now, you're not going to get your package for a month, and then the price will already
Also
gone back
true.
down by the time you get your copies in the mail. So unless you pre-list them,
Well, this
you're
is-
getting hosed.
This is also why I told people to buy Lovisa Cold Eyes, and I said that on December 1st.
Yeah, the timing's the important thing there for sure.
Like, we got the first dwarf cards like 2 weeks, or dwarf berserker, barbarian,
Whatever, yeah.
warrior, whatever. We got those cards like 2 weeks after. So if you listen on December 1st and you look at the spreadsheet and then you say, oh, this is a very, very high reward, low risk gamble, and you buy 15 copies of Lovisa Cold Eyes, then they're listed on your TCG Player store for $5.99 when people are scrambling for them.
Yeah, you have to be this sort of stuff. You have.
But if
to
you
be
bought on
ahead.
December 1st, you still don't have them.
If you maybe if you've waited, basically, if you're waiting for the full, if you're waiting to see what people are buying, you're probably too late. If that makes sense. For these hype spikes. Whereas if you wait to see what people are buying after the set releases, it's actually backed by real demand, and therefore isn't. You don't have the window will last much longer.
Here's
because
what you're
the
gonna have
Lovisa
to
Cold
do.
Eyes pick is great on December 1st and trash a week ago. That's the whole thing. So you have to be really ahead, and you have to stay
You have
up
to
on
train
it. So
yourself
It can work out, but it's more
to
risky.
watch these prices go up and not give a shit. You have to train yourself to go, well, that's some money somebody made, and a lot of people.
It's not money I lost.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
money. It's not
That's the
money
way
you
you think
lost,
of it.
exactly. You just have to look at it as
Yeah,
like
that's great.
that was like an obvious thing, but everyone was fighting, and like it looks like there's so much money being made. But like if you just learn to stay out of that and just ignore it, and it's just noise. You just do the stuff we say where it's like you can just go to EDH Rec, see what people are playing, like the stuff that people are actually going to build. If people build the Squirrel Guy deck, it's going to be completely different cards. It's going to be like Oran Frostfang is a pick versus Nut Collector. Like no one's going to play Nut Collector with this dude probably, right? But they'll probably play Oran Frostfang or like Oran Viper or something like that. Like the stuff that actually goes in the deck has some upside, but like it's not sexy and it's not obvious and it's not a card you could pick without seeing anything. You hear Fairy Tale and you're like, yeah, probably get Bitter Blossom, right? That's obvious to everybody. But not only was it wrong, but even if it hadn't been, the stuff that actually went up as a result of like people building fairies from Throne of Eldraine stuff wasn't Bitter Blossom. It was completely different stuff. So like you just have to train yourself to be like, well, that's a thing. People heard dwarf and they're like, yeah, people definitely are going to build dwarf tribal, which, isn't always necessarily true. Once you learn to just ignore that and let it happen and just do your thing is unaffected by people scrambling and you're
just
way
don't
less stressed
chase.
out, and you have a longer time window to sell the stuff because the stuff that goes up on organic demand doesn't immediately tank.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Well, that was a great email. Thanks for sending that in. And thank you for subscribing at patreon.com/BSB. It is Pick of the Week next, but before we do, we want to shout out friend of the cast, originalmagicart.store. We talk about them every week because they are great. If you want any piece of magic art in your home for the holidays, or if you have some holiday money you want to spend, you can go to originalmagicart.store. They got prints, playmats, Foglio portfolios, anything you want. If it's magic art, it's there. You can use the Brew Crew promo code to get a discount on your order. It'll help us out. It'll help your house look great, and it'll help support some artists. So please, if you have the opportunity, go to originalmagicart.store and check out everything they have to offer. All right, pick of the week time. Who wants to go first?
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
I was gonna say I really like their Baleful Strix playmat. Like Baleful Strix is one of the coolest arts on any Magic card ever. And I just like playing the card because it's a neat little value engine.
It's a great card too.
And speaking of Baleful Strix, my pick is based on Strixhaven.
Okay, so what is Strixhaven for those who don't know?
Strixhaven is the next
Harry Potter.
It is the next set in the referencing existing mythology line in terms of like Ikoria was Godzilla, Kaldheim is Vikings, Strixhaven is Harry Potter fantasy, I guess, is the closest we have come to deciphering that.
I mean, it could be like the wizard school in The Witcher.
Wait, Strixhaven, there's an owl? Buy all the owls.
I mean, that's
Buy Sage Owl.
Well, my pick's not too far off of that. I am picking Stony Brook Banneret from Morningtide.
Sage Owl. Hey, I know that one, DJ.
That is a 2-mana 1/1 Merfolk Wizard from Morningtide. It says Merfolk and wizards you control cost 1 less to play. This card is only printed in Morningtide, even given all like the wizard tribal stuff we've received before.
Yeah, that's true.
We've gotten
in the
like
list.
It wasn't in the it's in
the list.
Okay, so it has 1.01 printings then.
Well, I mean that's actually probably a great. It's probably in the list.
Morningtide's a banned set for the purposes of breaking bulk, so you're lucky we're letting you get away with it.
Just pick of the week.
But I mean, I fully expect as we creep closer to Strixhaven, people will expect some kind of high fantasy, whether it be Harry Potter, whether it be The Witcher, whether it be Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I don't know. But what I do know is that the second we get any sort of info about this set, people will rush to buy Wizard Tribal just like they rush to buy Lovisa Cold Eyes for Barbarians.
And this is a very powerful card.
You can go to Azami Lady of Scrolls right now and kind of see some of the Wizard Tribal stuff people are playing.
I got a Wizard Tribal deck. It's fun.
Kind of not that cohesive, you know.
Well, by cohesive you mean it's not cohesive to play with other human beings. Like it just makes you a bad person. Like it makes you not cohesive.
There are two different directions you can go
with
a
social group. Like it's just not cohesive.
Like, I think Morningtide's got a lot of good stuff. I don't hate Sage of Fables for Morningtide for the same really loose reasoning, right? Like you are not trying to. You're basically trying to have copies when everyone craps their pants when Morrows does his little thing where he's like, there are wizards in Strixhaven, and everyone goes, buy all the
You're right.
Bitter Blossom equivalent. So you want to have some stuff in stock for when that happens. So just look at, I guess, the Azami Lady of Scrolls page on EDH Rec and any other wizard tribal. Yep. Like I typed in Patron Wizard, right? And just like looked at what decks were playing Patron Wizard. And hey, Patron Wizard's $10 now. Probably goes to 25 and then back to 10. So DJ's looking ahead and he's gonna be like, man, I'm going to look like a genius in 6 months. But
well, look at Diviner's Wand too, y'all.
What's
Diviner's Wand is the wizard Morningtide equipment. That one too. And that one's 50 cents. Yeah, there's actually a lot to look at with that. You're absolutely right that wizards are going to be there, and Stony Brook Banneret's a very powerful card.
Buy all your Cyberpunk 2077 cards for when we go back to Kamigawa, but in the future.
Cyberpunk should really sponsor the Pringles cards. They don't work very well either.
Why, is the Pringles tube the dick that you get to make on Cyberpunk?
I somehow skipped that part of the game. It was very sad. All right, I've got to pick. It's a recent one, though. And I'm curious what you guys think from Ikoria. Luris. Luris is $5. I don't know what to make of Luris because the companion rule nerfed them The companion rules change nerfed them so hard. But Luris is still an incredibly powerful card in itself, even if it didn't have the companion text on it. But there are modern and pioneer and historic decks that still play Luris as a companion despite the change to the companion.
So you're banking on paper coming back.
I don't know, right? I think that it's just an enormously powerful card that gets more powerful the more powerful Magic becomes, right? Mm-hmm. The ability to cast spells from your graveyard that cost CMC 2 or less, that's the kind of thing that gets better as power creep continues, not worse, right? It's like Pod in that sense. Mm-hmm. And the card's $5. I think it's not going to be cheaper than $5. I don't know what the companion mechanic means in terms of reprints. For all I know, they're rushing to reprint them so they can fix the text on them, the Oracle text. But I do know that Luris is just a generically very strong card that has only gotten more expensive since the companion rules change, right? It was $3 after that, it was $3.50, and now it's up to $5. So I actually think Luris has a pretty good shot to be a $10 card in a couple years if they don't do anything to mess with it, so to speak.
That will always be like baffling to me. Just like I've said this before on the podcast, but like the continued difference between Magic and other organic online card games that started with their online model of like Wizards having to like, oh no, we nerfed a card. Guess what, guys? 19 months later down the line, it'll be on paper. The change will be official. But like Legends of Runeterra's like, oh shit, Lee Sin's too good at 4 mana. Change a number in a line of code. Now he's 5. Like,
it would be a lot simpler for Magic if that's the way it worked.
Like, imagine how much better a game Magic would be if they could do that, like, consistently.
It's interesting, right? Because the things that
I think they would be less careful when they're... No, they couldn't possibly be less careful.
You're right about that. Well, think about the things that make Magic sticky and that make it such the powerhouse it's been, that it was the inspiration for all these other games, are some of the same things that hold it back, and that does kind of make sense. You're sort of stuck with a lot. We talked about DFCs being a way to address the variance with mana. That's something you're kind of just stuck with today, right? So when you say, if it had been designed, if they had designed it without some of these constraints, what would it look like? I don't know if it would ever become the game it is if it was designed the way those other games were designed, because the paper aspect of it is what all those other games started copying. Their World of Warcraft TCG before Hearthstone, because the same things that hold it back as far as being printed paper are the same things that make Magic, to a lot of people at least. So I don't know. It's an interesting question to think about.
I just want to picture a world where we can like cast Oko for 5 mana.
I mean, yeah, I agree. It's interesting because COVID, imagine the world where they're playing paper competitive over the past year. It would have been so much worse than it already was with the bannings and stuff that they do have to consider jacking with people's decks. I mean, imagine trying to have a standard format in paper with companion cards that don't do what they read. I guess maybe we'll find out in 6 months or whatever before they rotate if we get paper Magic back. But if it wasn't for COVID, they would have a lot harder time addressing companions the way they did. And I think the fix that they applied, paying 3 generic mana to put it into your hand, has been very, very good for companions in terms of their playability, because they're still good. You still play them as your companion when you can. There's a lot of Yorion decks running around, but it's pretty fair, to have to pay to put it into your hand. Jason, what do you got?
I have 5 cards.
Okay, is it a cycle?
Every Showcase Triumph.
Can you imagine how weird it'd be if it wasn't a cycle?
Yeah, right.
All right, Jason. 5 different cards.
All right, Jason. Before there's a million different versions of all this stuff. So when you say showcase,
the alternate art, full art, they're called showcase. The ones with the cartoon art.
Right. I believe that there is both foil and non-foil.
I do not like.
The non-foils are $5 for. I'm looking at Endatha Triumph and Datha Triumph. This is one I have in my deck. It's $5, and the foil
is like 10.
Foil is 20,
14, depending on the site you're on.
Yeah, they're all different prices.
Because like Zagoth is the green, blue, black one, so it goes in Muldrotha decks, and you're like, I cycled it and brought it back, idiot.
It's also that's the Euro one.
Yeah,
that's why it's worth more, I think.
Yeah, so these are played in standard, but like for EDH going forward, they're non-foil, so they're not Pringles. You can get the foil. I say that like, ooh, foils are stupid, but I have foil Showcase Triumphs also.
I mean, I like them.
But
they
like,
look cool.
even the non-foil ones, it's a nice way to not have foils in your deck, but still have it be pimp. They're the best version. I don't know that they'll reprint them anytime soon. So I think the showcase Triumphs are never going to get cheaper. The prices were kind of flat on these, but I think when they move up, they'll take off.
I mean, it seems reasonable. They're very, very good, and they will. It's hard for me to imagine them making a better Tri-land than the Triomes.
They're very.
So I think they'll be around for a long time.
They're nutty. They're nutty.
Yeah, they are, and they're competitively played as well.
If they had given them cycling and just made them like the Tri-lands from, basically, if they weren't searchable, they would be very good. But the fact that they're searchable with fetch lands is just it's crazy how good they are.
A little over the top, yeah.
Well, whatever, they pushed the set. And if you go to EDH Rec and you look at the cards in the set, cards 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are Triumphs of the most played cards.
Wow. No, that's that
and
is good data.
Ikoria is a pretty good set. There's good cards in it. So.
Mm-hmm. As a final note for 2020, we want to thank everybody just one final time for listening, watching, following us on Twitch, watching our streams, hanging out with us in Discord, subscribing to the Patreon. We have all these end of the year awards we put a lot of work into, and you have a couple days now. And I'll tell you what, we may or may not check this until next week. So if it's January 1st,
no. If you're listening to this, that means you're a patron before the deadline. If you're listening to this and you're not a patron, you missed it. I tweeted like 16 times. I've made a bunch of Facebook posts.
I'm just saying,
There's
check out.
There's a deadline for a reason. Don't encourage these slackers.
Yeah, that's a good point. Should we have a grace period for the people who are listening to this episode?
Of course we should.
That's a great idea.
You have 24 hours from the moment you listen to this episode.
No. Then they can. I listened to this episode in March 4th. No.
Well, you know what? If you listen to this episode in March of 2021, you can go to patreon.com/BSB and get some quarterly rewards before the end of the month.
And then you can if you sign up then, you can get your end of the year 2021 rewards. That's true.
That is true. There you go. So if you listen to this podcast and sign up for the Patreon, you will support us. You will support the Magic community because we make sure to take that money and use it to pay people in the community to make this art and make the videos and all of this stuff. We want to make sure that we're not taking it for us. We're giving it back out into the community. So thank you, everyone, for your support. You're the reason we've been making this podcast for 8 years. Goodbye, 2020.
I think it's going to be 9 soon.
Wow, it really will be, right?
Maybe no.
Goodbye, 2020. We'll see you in 2021.